And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Stephen Chong, highly sought-after professional development coach, keynote speaker, and author. Today he returns to talk about his book, The Afterlife, A Journey to Now You Will Know What Will Happen. This book helps one experience the many levels of heaven before getting there. Stephen, welcome back. It's nice to see you again, and thanks for joining me.
Oh, Jeff, thank you for having me back on the program. It has been 12 months of very quick water under the bridge. Time passes quickly, but thank you for having me again.
I've gotten a lot of new subscribers since the last time you've been here, and this book covers your NDE. So for those new people and for a review of the other people, can we briefly go through your NDE again?
Sure. Well, look, as you do when you get to about 65, 66, you get up on ladders and clean out gutters. And I was about 5 meters cleaning out these gutters around the house and fell and fractured my neck. So I'm just outside here where I am, I'm on the ground. I can't feel anything. I'm thinking, I'm done, dear. I'm out. But fortunately, my wife was here and she came to my rescue. But I must say, Jeff, that the experience, or what happened at that time, or the NDE didn't occur at that time. It was an evolution through a period of rehabilitation. Now I'm okay. I'm not so good. But there was through the period of rehabilitation, which was about 3 months after the event, I was good for nothing on a couch, but I had this, what's called the voices in my head saying, and they gave me the title of the book. And I must say that I totally resisted. I said, I'm done. I'm old. I'm, tired. But it just kept hounding me. And I bought into the process, said, okay, you want me to write this book. Okay, I'm in. I'll do it. But you have to show me the afterlife. What do I know? I know nothing. I'm just a regular dude. So I bought into this process, and when I've sat to write this book, there was no storyboard, no character. I had nothing, and I sat, and it was like a total revelation. I saw things. I heard the words. The colours, and heard the music, and honestly, it was like taking dictation. And every time I sat, the words were like there, and the only thing I had to do was trust. I knew that this was a given. From whatever source, I was open to that source, and the words and the descriptions and what I saw, I did my best to describe. That's the way it worked. It was a marvelous, extraordinary experience.
At any point, either right after the fall or afterwards, did you lose consciousness and have an out-of-body experience?
I lost consciousness, absolutely. But I can't say that it was an out-of-body experience. I can't describe it as that, because I was kind of, morphing up, and I remember very little after the event, apart from lying in a hospital bed. Not very good shape.
Now, who do you think these voices were?
That's a very good question. I cannot say that it was somebody that was living. What I can say is the words that come through were somewhat gothic, arcane, and I don't write nor speak like that. So I'm writing these words that I'm hearing. I'm seeing through this character's eyes, and this main character, whose name was Athar, in life, he was, as a child, he was abused by under the auspices of the clergy. And later in life, he took his own life. So I'm seeing his journey through his eyes. That's how, he's like walking around taking me to these different levels of heaven, and I'm seeing through his eyes and writing what I saw and the narrative that he was telling me.
When you were journeying to heaven through him, would it be like you would go into a trance or something?
Yes, it's an interesting. It was like, perhaps I don't like the term mediumship. I say I'm just a regular fellow, But what I can say without doubt, it was tuning in. So it was like tuning a radio dial to a frequency. I'd sit and I'd have to have quiet, no noise, no interruption, nothing beeping and buzzing at me. And then, but even like in the morning, I would prep the spirit to say, okay, because you do things during the day, get busy, stuff to do. And I'd say, at 1 o'clock, we're on. And I would sit at 1 in this quiet and be there. It was like he was speaking directly to me in my head, and I'm just writing what he's telling me. That's how it worked. And from a writing process into practical sense, it took about 4 weeks with a book, because every time I sat, it was just there. This divine character was guiding how my fingers were pressing on the keyboard. That's the way it worked.
When you first started hearing the voice, did you have any thoughts like, am I going crazy?
No, far from it, Jeff. It's very interesting. The key to me was trust. Every time I sat, I knew he would be there. I had no doubt that he was leading me on, if I can use that term. And it was just there. So it was a complete and utter trust.
Do you think it's possible that you had some type of NDE when you were unconscious from the fall and you just don't remember it?
It's quite possible. But I must say, I thought deeply about this, Jeff, and spoken to you about these things previously. What my understanding, the critical understanding from an NDE are 2 things. One, that the NDE redirects you away from perhaps a different path. So I'd shut down with my writing process. I'm done. I'm not doing anymore. I'm old. I want to plant tomatoes. And Spirit says, Stephen, you have got more to do. Then this is choice. I could have said, no, thank you very much, bye-bye. Or, as I did, I said, okay, I'm in. We will do this thing. So it's a redirection of purpose. That's one. The second principal thing that I understand of an NDE is that it imbues you with, let's use the term, superpowers, talent, skills that you never knew you had, that were perhaps latent or perhaps newly given. But Spirit says, I'm leading you on this path. Here we go. Here are talents and skills that are going to enable you to fulfill that purpose. And that is absolutely what has happened. As I say, I never knew that I could download or be inspired by such spirit to write the words that I have. Never knew that. I never even considered it. However, here we stand.
Well, tell us about the many levels of heaven that you experienced.
My goodness. So let's where do I start? Let's go back to the main character. Now, this main character, as I say, who was abused by the clergy, is stuck in this purgatory by virtue of the shame and the guilt and the anger that he felt. He couldn't release himself from this purgatory, so he's stuck in there. And it's by virtue of a relationship that he has with the bishop of the see under whose insouciance he was abused. They come together in this purgatory. I saw them as mists. There's a way I described them in the book. And they are able to forgive one another. And that forgiveness of each other releases them into the heavenly realms. And that's where the journey starts. So, and let me give you a description. Again, this is all what I saw. So when souls exit from these mists, this purgatory. What I saw was these mists, and there was a portal, and out of these mists were coming these beautiful souls. Yeah, and they're all dressed in, some in robes, head to toe robes of various colours that you could not even imagine, and I had difficulty describing. I did the best I could. But the colours of, it's like the aura, that if you can, we've got this aura around of different colours. That's what I saw when these souls exited these mists. Now, some souls were beautifully robed in white, gold, shining colours. Others were dressed in dark Hessian, dark black, and that the colour of the robe designated the pathway that they were to follow. So obviously those that were brightly coloured went up to the higher realms. Those that were more darker in colour sort of went downwards, if you can imagine that. And the soul could not resist. So if the soul was, what I saw was one soul dressed in like brown Hessian, trying to make its way up into the higher heavenly realms. And they couldn't. They were debarred, if you will. And there was a pathway directly linked to the road they had to follow, if that makes sense. And that soul, but this colour of the robes was not eternal. That was it. You had a judgment made. The colour of the robes were indicative of the path you would follow, but you evolved. So by virtue of the evolution in heaven, these robes change colour, become lighter, if that makes sense. That's what I saw. Yeah.
It almost sounds like a religious experience in a way, because people are wearing robes,
Yeah. I guess you could. There's so many others that I'll describe in a sec. I guess you call it a religious experience. And let me give you one that comes straight to mind. This character Arthur was taken into this beautiful building, and if you can imagine Greco-Roman alabaster marble, not just a regular house, this is magnificent. So I walk in, again, I'm seeing through this character's eyes, and we walk into this place, and I go, what is this? And I remember walking in there, and the love that I felt, experience when I'm sitting there writing this thing, I could feel the love, and even now it gives me chills. So I walk into this building and go, what is this? And I've called it the School for Children. And there was these beautiful angelic beings in there, tending to these young fledglings, young souls that have left the earth plane early, were being tended by the heavenly angels, like little fledgling babes, or up a little bit older. But what I learned from that is that every child who leaves the earth plane early is tended with so much love and beauty by the Heavenly Father. You cannot even imagine. Everyone, none are left every child is so looked after, even if the bond between the parent and the child is tenuous. Each child is brought to the prime of their spiritual life in this school. And as I say, I can barely describe the love that I felt when I walked into this place. It was extraordinary. And I did my best to describe it.
It's somewhat common for experiencers to tell me that they see a place that looks like Roman or Greek architecture. So it's nice to see that you saw it too.
Yes. There were many, there are other instances we talk about, but there were many like that. The architecture was, that's what I saw, was very Roman Greco type, magnificent structures. But just to go back on that school for children, one could only imagine the grief and loss of a parent when they lose a child early. But I explain to your listeners that have had that experience, I can only say that each child is so beautifully loved by the Heavenly Father, none left behind. It was an extraordinary experience just to walk into this place.
To go back to the architecture, most of the people who see that will say that that's the area of the Akashic Records. Did you see that area? And if so, did it also look like that?
Yes, I did, Jeff. I got taken into this, again, the similar type of building, a huge library. So we walked into this library of records, and what I saw, students in abundance with masters walking around tending to their needs, and tomes, books and architecture beyond the description. But yes, that's my understanding. This was the Hall of Records, the Hall of Akashic Records, where everything, every past, present, and future is revealed. So yes, and there was this master librarian that I saw who took the character to a specific area of his learning. Yes, I did see that, absolutely.
Did you see anywhere where people were getting a life review?
Yes. That, as to my understanding, occurs in the mists. So those mists, or purgatory, if we want to call it that, is where the life review occurs. So it's the mirror of reflection, where my understanding is everything, nothing is missed. Every part of one's life is reviewed, for better or for worse.
Interesting that you said it was in the area of purgatory.
Well, yes. The underlying, as I understand it now, the underlying law of heaven is what you sow, so shall you reap. And this is where you, in that those mists, that purgatory, is where that occurs. So your life flashes before your eyes. You confront who you are, not what you were. So the law is, one of the laws is the emperor wears no clothes. So no matter one's station in life, you could be king, prince, or pauper, none of that matters. You are revealed according to what you have done for your fellow man. What you have done to your fellow man is what declares your place in heaven. That's the period of review, as I understand it.
I feel like we will always judge ourselves more harshly for our actions than the rest of us would. But
Yes,
there's probably always there always are some exceptions. There's probably people there that have also done horrific things that would say, I did nothing wrong.
There you go. So that's a very interesting point. And I'm just reading, as you're saying that, the law number 3, if I could quote, what you have cause to effect in your fellow man is what declares your place in heaven. Isn't it? What you have cause to effect in your fellow man declares your place in heaven. So you could perhaps judge yourself quite harshly, but that may not be the reality.
So there's still
on what you, because we're all one in spirit, is
right.
The law. So what you do to another, you do to yourself.
So there is either a judgment, or perhaps the way you lived your life determines your frequency, and then the frequency gives you your place.
I think that's perfectly accurate, yeah. But again, if I can paraphrase another law, which I'll read to you, the judgment of heaven is neither vindictive or eternal, but probationary and remedial. So it's a process of evolution.
So it sounds like somebody's rendering judgment from what you're saying.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure we're looking through our own eyes. But Jeff, I've got to tell you something really interesting, which we haven't discussed before in the writing of the book. And it's all revelation. As I've written this book, and as you do as an author, you read it 100 times.
Yeah.
And I reckon about 3 or 4 months after the writing, it was like, the voices in my head are saying, Stephen, you've missed something. Read it again. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I've only read it 100 times and edited it and so forth. So I read it again. And then I saw them. These, as I mentioned a couple, these laws of heaven and earth. And I go, wow. And I found 15. There might be more. But these are laws embedded in the text that I found that go, oh, far out. And they're laws now that like you can live by, make life a far better place.
Would you say they're like the 10 Commandments, but they're 15?
Yeah, that's what I found. Yes. Yeah. Again, so you might read it and find more because you've got better eyes than I, but I found 15.
Well, tell us about some of them.
Let me see. Forgiveness is at the heart of your ultimate realization. Law number 8. Forgiveness is at the heart of your ultimate realization. Law number 1. Fear not, you are never without the love of the Father. And if you think about some of those, never without the love of the Father, and speaking Father, not in male terms, of course, they're so profound. Never without the love of the Father. If ever there was separation between the divine and his children, then God's love would not exist. Wonderful tenets.
So we're always loved and we're always connected.
Absolutely. You're great. Yes. You're great. That's exactly what it's saying. We're always never without the love of the Father. Yeah. I mean, if one knows that in times of trouble and strife, how magnificent is that one can connect to that divine inspiration that is always there.
The problem is that within this realm, we live in the illusion that we are separated.
There you go. And these laws in some way break down that it's a myth. We are not separate from the divine. No, never have been, never will be. I mean, we can think that we are separate, but in reality, no, we are not. No. And that divine presence, we can speak later about the guardian angels. That was kind of fun. I saw a lot of that too. But they are there for us all the time. We can call on them whenever.
Well, let's talk about some of the other laws.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. Would you like to? I can give you a description of some of the other things I saw.
Sure.
Which might be. Let me give you one that comes to mind. Back onto that Greco-Roman architecture, I saw this magnificent Colosseum, and this, it's like the Roman Colosseum, if you could picture it. And in this Colosseum were was filled with beautiful souls of colours beyond the imagining, and they're all chanting the Om sound. So there's this beautiful halo of music going around. And in the middle of the arena were these repose lounges, lounge chairs. And I'm sort of seeing all this and I go, what the? And in walked these seraphim, beautiful little angelic creatures. And they've got a soul with them. And each soul was kind of deformed or had great melody. So it was like they're crippled, if you will, is the best way I can describe. So these seraph lead each of the souls and place them on these lounge reposes. And these lounges kind of envelop them, best way I can describe. And then in walks this angelic being, glorious robe, gold, white colour. And he stands there with his, and takes, sort of creates this magnetic, from all the energy of the souls in this arena, it creates, I call it the magnetic coral, and he creates this ball of magnetic energy with spinning energy, in his hands. And then the energy, like laser beam lights into these souls on these lounges. Far out. So I'm just describing this. And then after he's done his thing, this angelic being just folds the energy back into himself and he exits. And then the souls that were on the lounges get up and they are completely reformed. They're like they've been completely cured. They're whole again. And, it's just incredible to see. But what I understand from that experience is that sins, and that leads me to a law, and just let me find it. Sins imposed by others in heaven are not borne by the self. So if I did something bad to you, let's say I'll make it up, if I gave you a bad drug and that caused you illness and sickness and malady, that illness, you do not bear that weight into heaven. You are relieved of those burdens. Me, on the other hand, I've caused that. I've done that to you. That's my weight. The consequences for that are mine. But for you, you are relieved of those burdens. And that's what the magnetic coral did.
Would you say then that is a healing area, or?
Yes.
It makes sense to me. I mean, I've talked to so many experiencers that they would be somewhere on the other side and receive healing. Most of the time they say it's while they're in the light.
There you go. Yes. Well, in fact, as I recall in the book, I called it the healing arena. That's because that's what I saw. I got to tell you, Jim, I couldn't even make this stuff up. Even my wildest imagination, I couldn't make it up, but that's what I saw.
If we go back to your example of you giving me something that caused me to have, some medical problem, when you enter heaven, are you not relieved of that act?
I have to bear the consequence of that act, absolutely.
In what way?
Now let me take you out of that example and give you exactly what I saw. Remember this main character, Athar, was abused under the auspices of the church, and a priest did that. Now, what I was taken to, this priest who had performed those horrendous, heinous acts, was in this dark cavern, black, and Athar was walking down this tunnel, and there's like snakes and sounds and screams and things there. And this character, this priest, was stuck in this, it was horrendous place by virtue of what he has done in his earthly form to others. He had secreted himself in this place, horrible place. And it was only through the character's forgiveness, that he was taken out. Athar was able to find the forgiveness in himself to this person to release him from this horrendous place that he had found himself. So if that doesn't turn one away from heinous acts, I don't know what else will.
Are you implying then that the only way to be redeemed from your heinous act is by the forgiveness of your victim?
Forgiveness, yes. And did I mention that? Yeah, forgiveness is at the heart of your ultimate realization. Is the law 8 that I mentioned before. Yes, that appears to me the key. So, relationships that we have, we cause one another stress. Forgiveness of self and forgiveness of the other has got to be central to that. In the book, it seemed to release the characters to higher levels. So they were able to forgive that other person for what they had done. And that released both of them, or each other, so that they could experience the higher realms. It was a key, absolutely.
If you look back at all these experiences, what is the most impactful experience that you remember?
My goodness, geez, that's a good question. And I've got to tell you, Jeff, it's to do with what's happened with myself and family in the past couple of weeks. About 2 weeks ago, I lost my beautiful mother. And she was such an angelic, beautiful being. And I thought, quite frankly, that I'd be a bit messy, stuck in grief and things. But I've got to tell you that the experience subsequently, having learnt given the knowledge of what I've done through the book, The Afterlife, has now become experiential. So I've experienced, through that grief, losing my mum, and one still grieves, but I know exactly where she is. I know exactly where to find her in the heart, and I know how to connect with her. So it's completely take that experience now with the knowledge, and the experience has completely taken me to a different level of understanding.
Has she tried to contact you since she's transitioned? And if not, are you expecting her to?
I can't give away too much yet, but yes, the answer to that is yes. And my understanding now is that she is going to be giving me the next book. And I know nothing yet. I'm waiting for the knock on the door. But I'm pretty sure, because I know how beautiful my mother was, and she's up there with in the higher levels with the angels, it'll be a description of the seventh heaven. I can tell you no more than that because I know no more than that. But the answer to that is yes. And she's there. To me, she's there all the time. There's no separation. It's just like I have to open up a little door in the heart here, and there she is.
Can you tell us more about the seventh heaven?
I can only tell you what I know so far. Right at the end of the book, I got taken, again, through the eyes of this main character, Athar. He got taken with one of the most angelic beings that I could even begin to describe. And he got taken up through these levels. So it's like he was like holding on in tandem, and he got taken up to these higher levels. And it was like moving through, got to a stage where they come to a magnificent outlook, and they looked out upon this expanse of colour and light and music. But I can tell you no more than that because that's all I saw. I'm sure there's more. I know there's more, but that's as far as I was taken. He took, and the colours and the music and the light were a part of everything. But that's I can't describe it any better than that because that's what I was shown. Maybe because of limitations of my own, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure the next book will be a revelation of such. Yes.
Did you see anything that indicated that there is reincarnation, like people preparing to come back?
That's a very good question. And the answer to that specifically is no. I did not see that. No. I'm a firm believer in reincarnation, but in what I was shown, no, I did not see in it. There was nothing indicative of reincarnation. There were descriptions of how souls, like our guardian angels, are there for us and come back over the mists and are there for us. So there was all that sort of description, but that was not a description of the reincarnation of souls. I firmly believe in that, but I cannot say in the book that I was shown that, no.
I feel like what you have had is a shared death experience with Athar.
Yes, I'm certain, Jeff, that was exactly the case. So I'm seeing through his eyes. He's speaking to me in his language. So some will call it mediumship, but I really am not comfortable with that. It's for others to make such determinations. But yes, I'm seeing that through this character's eyes.
Are you still in contact with him?
I haven't. No, it's a funny thing. I wait for inspiration, Jeff. And as you know, through the process of writing a book, I have these sort of places in my head that say, okay, now I'm writing and channeling a book. Now I'm talking to lovely people on a podcast. So I'm sure that there's more to come. I'm certain of it, but I have to open that portal in my head and let them in.
He hasn't come to you in a dream and saying, Stephen, it's time to write another one.
Well, I've got to tell you, Jeff, that the way I'm pretty sure it's going to happen is my beautiful mother is waiting up there for me to open this portal. And we are doing because she only passed 2 weeks ago, we're doing a ceremony for her with lots and lots of people in about a week's time. So once that's out of the way, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some celestial activity, shall we call it that? But we will see.
Do you fear death at all?
Oh, that's a very good question. The answer to that, having learnt and understand now, the answer's no. This book and what I've seen and heard have been a complete revelation. The answer's no. Ultimately, what I received, I'm sure, is designed to help make life a better place. But the transition to know where we go, consequential of what we have done in life, the answer is no. I don't fear it at all. In fact, it becomes, well, I would say blessing. Blessing's a word that's in my head, but the answer is no. You know, I'm 66 now, so it can't be too far away.
Many of my viewers are people who have lost somebody to the other side and are grieving. What kind of advice do you have for them?
Again, that's a very good question. And I relate it back to that school of learning. Every soul is nurtured by the Heavenly Father. Nobody is left behind. And to know what they did in that school of learning for the young fledglings that have passed early was such a beautiful experience. Just to be, like, it's hard to describe, but I was writing what I was seeing, but I was feeling it at the same time. So, no soul is left behind. None. There were areas I haven't described to you this time, but I saw there were nether regions. I can describe those for you. That were, my goodness, they were hellish, but no soul is left behind by the Father. None.
So are you saying that every person that winds up in a hellish region will eventually get out?
Yes. Let me give you a description of that because it's very vivid to memory. I got taken into through this desolate, burnt. It's like a bushfire had been through this area, and there was this huge portal. And I've got this guide. It's an angelic being. Remember, I'm seeing through it. I'm talking as a Thar now. I'm seeing it through his eyes, where he got taken. And through this portal, what I saw were these huge vortices of power. So I've turned to this guide, who is with me. So I'm like, what is this? And these vortices in trapped power, it's not sort of God's wrath upon people. They're vortices, we're trapped in there. If you can imagine the 7 deadly sins, lust, gluttony, greed, avarice, vengeance, these trap the souls within. And what I saw were that souls trying to get out, and there were these hands like pulling them down. They couldn't escape. But it is not God's wrath upon the soul. They are entrapped by choice, through these sins. And around these huge vortices were these angelic beings. It was like angels in waiting, if I could describe them. And when souls were able to repent, release themselves from these vortices, then they were taken away and nurtured through the other heavenly realms. That's what I saw. But in the seeing of, if one could not, you go, my goodness, you just don't want to be there. If that doesn't turn you from errant tasks, nothing will. But that's what I saw.
From my experience with guests, usually when someone either calls out to God or to Jesus, that gets them out of there.
Yes, I think that's a perfect description, Jeff. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, perfect description. So you've, God, Jesus, whoever your master is, call upon them, and that releases you from this state of purgatory, I guess you'd call it.
Speaking of masters, did you see Jesus or Buddha or anybody else there?
Jeff, I've got to tell you, the answer to that is yes. But let me describe that. Each time I saw a character, a new character, and there were many that come along, I would ask, who is this? And instantly I would get a name, and I'd write that down. But there was a master there who I saw and described probably on 2 or 3 times, or 2 or 3 occasions. And I remember asking specifically, what's your name? Couldn't get it. Never got it. So in the book, I've described this person as the master because I could do nothing else. I was not given a name. This master took, as I described before, they were taken. The main character was taken up to this huge, high heavenly realm. It was his place that he was looking from, but I could never get his name.
Do you think that's a master like Jesus or Buddha, or do you think that was God or source?
It's a good question. I don't know that you could call this a Jesus-like figure or a Buddha-like figure. Absolutely. He was a master of these higher realms, but I cannot give him a name because even though I asked and received all these other names, this one I was not given. I don't know why, but I don't know.
Did you happen to see in some sort of way come into contact with God or source?
It was all God to me, Jeff. It was all nothing separate from. This was all a heavenly experience. There was no. I did not see a grand God head figure sitting up there on a heavenly throne. Everything all was within the heavenly realm and under the. I don't like the word auspices, but it's the best I can do. Everything was the Father.
So are you saying that everything and all of us collectively are God?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right. You experienced heaven through Athar, but do you feel that Athar's memories have now become your own memories?
It's a very good question, one that I've not even pondered. To answer the question, I absolutely believe now what I saw and experienced and were taken. I could not have imagined any of this. It was far beyond the realm of even my vivid imagination. Could not, under any circumstance. It was. I look at it now as an absolute gift, but a gift not just from an objective point of view to be shown these things, but to take it on board and to start to live it. I'm 66 now, and God knows how long I've got left. Up to me now how I transform or make the best of the message that I receive. And in some ways, Jeff, I see myself just as a messenger boy. So I'm not exceptional in any way, but I have a task now to do to bring what I saw and heard and experienced to others. And here we stand.
If I go back to those memories, if you feel like they're your memories as well now, have those memories faded at all?
No. No. In fact, to the opposite, they become more vivid. They become real. So one imbues. I'm human. I'm very frail, and a naughty boy at times. Just ask my wife. But but now it's like it's part of you. There's no separation, which is the wonderful thing, wonderful experience.
Well, is this book out yet?
Next week, Jeff, what date are we? We are the 19th. The e-book's out now. And on the 26th, whenever that is, probably today week, the paperback is out. Yes. It's all on Amazon and all the major sites. So, yes, 26th is when it's officially released. You can pre-order and things now. We'll get on my website and have a look, and I can do what I do and order them for you or whatever. But next week.
Great. Are you going to make an Audible version?
Oh, now there's a very good question. I don't know. I tell you what I'll do. I'll ask Spirit and say, is this an Audible versionable? But it's not something I've considered yet. No, but let's see how it goes.
Well, you have a pleasant voice. I think it would do well.
Oh, thank you very much. Do you think people are going to understand my Aussie accent?
Yeah. Sure.
Very good. Okay, I'll follow your lead then.
At least Australians will.
Hopefully they will.
What is the population of Australia? Like 30 million? So
I think we've got 26 million or something like that.
Well, you've got 20 million customers over there.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Well, you mentioned your website. What is it? What is the name of it, actually?
It's www.stephenchong.com.au.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, I do. Yeah, just Google Stephen Chong. Yeah, you'll find me there. It's Stephen Chong 6, I think it is. Don't ask me. My technology skills are akin to being a dinosaur.
Well, you have this new book coming out. You've got the YouTube channel. Potentially, you've got another book. Do you have anything else in the works that you want us to know about?
I tell you what I'll do, Jeff. Consequential of our talk this morning, I will explore the what do you call it, the audio book. How's that?
I'm not giving you chores to do. I'm just seeing if you want to share anything else that's going on in your life.
Well, I can't, with Mum's passing, the last 2 or 3 months have been difficult because Mum was very palliative for 2 or 3 months. So we've had quite the journey as a family. And with her passing and the ceremony we're having for her next week, a preoccupied mind a bit. But stay tuned. I'll let you know if inspiration hits me around the back of the head and says I'll be doing something. I'll let you know. But at this stage, I know there's another book coming because my dear mother has told me there is. So I'm aware of that. But how that's going to manifest itself, I'm not yet clear. So sit tight with that one.
If people want to ask you questions, should they do that from your website or your YouTube channel?
Just go to the website, Jeff. They're happy to receive questions or on the website they can do that contact form thing, or they can contact me via email, which is easy, and I'm happy to respond. More than happy.
Before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
I'll leave you with one of the tenets. Okay, one of the laws. How's that? To know that you are sacred is not to see new things in you, but to see yourself as you really are. see yourself as sacred is not to see new things in you, but to see yourself as you really are. This is a divine message.
It is. Stephen, thank you for sharing that message and joining me today. I wish you the best and massive success with your book.
Jeff, you're a wonderful man, and blessings to you.
Thank you, and also to you. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.